Hello and welcome to another edition of Across the World. I'm Tim Jones coming to you from Seattle in the United States of America. And with me today is my good friend from across the world, Hamad Hassan, who is coming to us from Lahore, Pakistan. And today we're going to talk about sort of a sensitive topic perhaps, but I think it's an important one. And we're going to talk about the relationship between India and Pakistan and how that relationship evolved, what can perhaps be done to improve it. As many of you may know who are watching this program, they have a sort of a common ancestor in that they were both part of what was called the British Raj, this region that incorporated Pakistan and India. And in 1947, correct me if I'm wrong, Hamad, Great Britain gave both countries independence. Pakistan is primarily a Muslim-based country. India is primarily a Hindu-based country. However, they have hundreds of millions of Muslims living there as well. And it is no secret that there have been tensions between these two countries, and not just on the cricket field either, mind you. So I would like to ask some questions to Hamad to learn a little bit more about this relationship. So starting with the fact that, as I mentioned before, they were part of the British Raj when the British Crown ruled the Indian subcontinent from 1858 until 1947. How has this common history shaped Pakistan and India and their views towards Great Britain, as well as their views toward each other?
Thank you, Mr. Tim. I think so. You have a very strong knowledge about the history of the subcontinent, India and Pakistan. As far as your question is concerned, both of India and Pakistan got independence from the British rule in 1947. So both of the sides think that it was good for both the nations that they get out of that imperial rule, because that imperial rule divided the whole subcontinent into different pieces. And there were very, very worst economic conditions for the independence. So overall, both the countries, people think that we were slaves before 1947. And after 1947, we both got in the independence. And now we have a freedom, we have our independent countries, and we can live independent.
Okay. What would you say are the primary causes for the tensions between the two countries of Pakistan and India?
Primary cause started from 1947. When the British rule ended, what they did some injustice here in the subcontinent. According to the rules which were decided, that the Muslim majority countries will be the part of Pakistan, and the Hindu majority countries, little states in the subcontinent, will be under the rule of India. So some of the states which were populated by Muslims, in terms of injustice, they were given to the Indian side. And one of them was Kashmir. And Kashmir is 90% of the population are the Muslims. They gave them under the rule of India. And here tension started between the India and Pakistan. You know that there are 3 full-fledged wars between the India and Pakistan, and the cause of every war was Kashmir.
And why is that? I don't want to sound ignorant, and I apologize. So my question is just born out of my lack of knowledge. But Kashmir is a very mountainous region. I don't think there's a lot of people living there. Why is that very remote, very mountainous region so important to both countries?
Yes, it is a very nice question. The Kashmir is important to Pakistan because the Quaid-e-Azam, the founder of Pakistan, said that the Kashmir is the lifeline of Pakistan, because all the water reserves in Pakistan, they all come from the Kashmir. Pakistan has five main rivers which come from the mountains of the Kashmir. So strategically, the Kashmir is very much important. And secondly, there are the Muslim majority area. Thirdly, also that this Muslim majority area is under the rule of cruel Indian rule. There are atrocities in the Kashmir. There are about 80 lakh people 80 lakh people have martyred the Kashmir.
Martyred. Okay, I got
Yes.
you. Would you say most of the tension between the two countries is between the two governments, or is there an equally strong level of tension and distrust between the actual people, the citizens of the two countries?
As the cultures were same. We live together. Hindus and Muslims live together. So there are very much common things between the people. Their cultures, their behaviors, their languages are same. So I think so. On the level of the people, there are people. Most of the people think that the war should be ended and we should again live in the peaceful environment. And I think so that most tensions are on the state level and on the because both the governments have their own interests. And the most importantly that the India and Pakistan they have some borders which from where trade between both the countries happen there, and it is good for the both countries.
So if an average Indian family, let's say it's a husband, wife, and their 3 children, and they're all Hindus, comes and visits a city like Islamabad or Karachi or Lahore, and they're just average folks, will they be greeted like a tourist from Austria or a tourist from Brazil, or will they be viewed more suspiciously because they're from India if they were visiting Pakistan?
I think so. If there are some tourists from India, and on the second hand there are some tourists from Austria or United States, then we will give more priorities to our Indian friends, because we are very open heart people here in Pakistan, and we always welcome the tourists. And if some Indian come, we are happy because of the same culture, of the same language we meet. And we think that our ancestors were same, and we always welcome them.
Okay. Now, one question I have is, how has the military buildup between the two countries and the associated amount of spending that goes into the military buildup, how has that affected the relationships between your two countries? I mean, it is not a secret that both countries have invested a fair amount in military expenditures, and there's been, threats of possible nuclear war between the two countries. So how has the whole military buildup impacted the relations between your two countries?
Yes, it is a very unfortunate aspect of both countries, that both the countries have spent billions of dollars on the military development, and on the other side, the most of the people are living the life under very much unfair economic conditions. And I think so. Both the militaries which are established in India and Pakistan have impacted and have undermined the basic rights of the people of both the countries. Tension between both the countries, dollars spent on the military should be spent on for the people of India and Pakistan.
I hear you. What are some areas where you see some signs of hope and progress between India and Pakistan and their people in the area of improving relations and cooperation? Are there some hopeful signs that you see, or are there some suggestions that you would make if there aren't those hopeful signs?
Yes, there are many, many hopeful signs, and two of them I will mention. That one is tourism. Pakistan has opened 2 years before. Pakistan has opened the border of Kartarpur border for the Indian Sikh pilgrimage, because they have a holy place. Sikhs have a holy place here in Pakistan where they visit, and Pakistan has opened for all the Sikhs. They can only come across some bus and cross the border and spend some of time in the area of Pakistan, Kartarpur, at their tomb, and they can get back. So tourism is a major area where both the countries can work, can come close to each other. And the second main thing is sports, because India and Pakistan are cricket-loving nations. Both the countries play cricket on the international level, and I think so. The tensions between both the countries can come to the level where there can be a peace.
How hard is it for someone from Pakistan, if they have the financial means, how hard is it for them to travel to India? Is it relatively easy? Is it like booking an airline flight and flying? Or are there a lot of visa requirements and, background checks and all sorts of things to make sure these people are allowed to travel to India?
Yes, that is a very interesting and complex question, because that there are so much security problems in the India and Pakistan, because both the countries are rivalries. So the security system do not work as normal for both the countries, because when some Indian is coming, our institutions will always see with the glasses of maybe he's a spy. So there will be a lot of checks when the Pakistani will visit India or Indian will visit to the Pakistan. There will be a lot of checks through which he have to suffer. And secondly, one more important thing I want to tell you, that there are no direct flights. Both the countries are together, but there are no direct flights. If an Indian has to visit Pakistan, he has to go first Dubai, and from Dubai he has to take the flight and come to Pakistan.
I had no idea. Wow, that's a problem. Wow.
So a flight of 1 hour will be converted into the flight of 8 to 9 hours.
Wow. Is it hard for an American to travel to Pakistan, or do we have some of the same challenges?
No, only for India.
Interesting.
Because back in 2019, when there was the military encounter was very on peak, there were some military clashes on the airspace, and the airspace was closed by both the countries for each other, and the rest of the people of both sides are suffering.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, I know, during the Trump administration, there was a period for many, many months where they stopped allowing travel into the United States from several Muslim countries. I don't know whether Pakistan was on that list of countries, but there was a period where if you just happened to live in a Muslim country, you could not fly into the United States. I mean, I think that's kind of insane. I think it's crazy, but we had that policy because there was this fear of terrorism and this blanket assumption that if someone was a Muslim, maybe they're a terrorist, which is based in ignorance and stupidity. But we did have that issue for a while. Thankfully, that's not the case anymore. But it's the kind of stuff that embarrasses me sometimes. I have a question, this is kind of a wrap-up question. What are some of the misunderstandings or some of the myths that some people in the West may have about India and Pakistan and the relationship with each other? What are some things that you think we may not get right, we may not understand about the relationship between your two countries and the people of your two countries?
Mostly when I have talked to the Western people, they always see the Pakistan and Indian people in one glasses, that is, there are Asian people. But the Indian and Pakistan are very different from other Asians, like Chinese, like Japanese, and like Koreans. There are some different cultures here and different traditions here, and a lot of languages in the both the countries. As I told you earlier, that in Pakistan there are 80 languages which are spoken, and I think so this number is double in the India.
Wow.
So there is a very diverse culture here in both India and Pakistan. We are very much diverse in nature. If you are traveling from south to the north, every 10 kilometers you will see that there is a change in the somehow language, in the culture, in the traditions, and overall both the Pakistan and the Indian people have very much common traditions. Whether there are some marriage traditions or some other like tradition, there's very much common here between both the countries. But one major difference between both the countries is that the Pakistan is a Muslim country, and India is a Hindu country. So when you are talking with the Pakistan, then you have to, you will say that he will be a Muslim, and mostly he will be a Muslim because 90% population in Pakistan is a Muslim. And if you are talking to some Indian, you can say that he can be a Hindu, or there's a large number of Muslims in India also, and of the other religions.
Yeah. Well, I think in the West, we do tend to associate, we think of Pakistan, Muslim, India, Hindu, therefore they don't get along. End of story. Overly simplifying the dynamics between the two cultures, because one of the unfortunate things is a lot of Americans do not know a lot about countries outside of America. A lot of Americans are ignorant about what's going on just north of them in Canada. You ask an American to just name the capital of the country of Canada, and a lot of them would not know the answer to that. So you can imagine how ignorant we may be sometimes on the subtle nuances of the relationships between Pakistan and India. That's going to be lost on a lot of people in my country, unfortunately. And that's why we have this program, to kind of learn a little bit more about each other's cultures, and in this case also the relationship between India and Pakistan, because between you two countries, correct me if I'm wrong, but between India and Pakistan, you have something like 25% of the world's population. I mean, these are two very, very populous countries. So I think it's important to know something about these countries. I mean, what you have, like, isn't it like 240 million people in Pakistan or something like that? Somewhere in there.
Yes, you're right.
I'm close. And then India has over 1 billion. So that's an amazing amount. Anyway, well, listen, I think that's it for this week's edition of Across the World. Hamad, thank you for your candor, as always, and some of your fascinating insights that I did not know anything about. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you all again in a future episode of Across the World. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Tim. Bye, everybody.